Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. All right. Sorry, it's taking me a little to get adjusted. Tilson and I both have some virus of some sort that's making us dizzy as all get out. I am so dizzy. My head is like just, the room is spinning. So, taking me a minute to get my head on straight, literally. Sure thing, Tammy. Absolutely. You are Meredith. We're twinsies. It's not COVID. No, but very, very dizzy. The whole room is just, I'm not so bad when I'm sitting, but when I get up and move around, the whole world is just flip flopping around me. And my head is full of pressure right in my forehead and on top of my head. I feel like it's got a balloon blowing up on the inside out. It's weird. Tony's had it since, yeah, it's like vertigo, Karen. Tony's had it since Sunday, but I thought it was just his neck bothering him or something until all of a sudden yesterday we were in the car having our romantic anniversary Chick-fil-A. And it was like somebody took the car and flipped it upside down. Like all of a sudden, I grabbed the side of the wall and the whole world just kind of went in a circle around me. And ever since then, I'm dizzy. I'm just really, everything is like just kind of moving weird. I don't know. It's making me feel like what. So anyway, August 22nd, the Lord's refining furnace, Ezekiel 22:17-22. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, the people of Israel are the worthless slag that remains after the silver is smelted. They are the dross that is left over, a useless mixture of copper, tin, iron, and lead. So tell them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you are all worthless slag, I will bring you to my crucible in Jerusalem. Just as silver, copper, iron, lead, and tin are melted down in a furnace, I will melt you down in the heat of my fury. I will gather you together and blow the fire of my anger upon you, and you will melt like silver in the fierce heat. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have poured out my fury on you. The sins of Israel's leaders, Ezekiel 22:23-31. Again, a message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, give the people of Israel this message. In the day of my indignation, you will be like a polluted land, a land without rain. Your princes plot conspiracies just as lions stalk their prey. They devour innocent people, seizing treasures and extorting wealth. They make the widows in the land. They make many widows in the land. Your priests have violated my instructions and defiled my holy things. They make no distinction between what is holy and what is not, and they do not teach my people the difference between what is ceremonially clean and unclean. They disregard my Sabbath days so that I am dishonored among them. Your leaders are like wolves who tear apart their victims. They actually destroy people's lives for money, and your prophets cover up for them by announcing false visions and making lying predictions. They say, my message is from the sovereign Lord, when the Lord hasn't spoken a single word to them. Even common people oppress the poor, rob the needy, and deprive foreigners of justice. I looked for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. I searched for someone to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land, but found no one. So now I will pour out my fury on them, consuming them with fire of my anger. I will heap on their heads the full penalty for all of their sins. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. The adultery of two sisters, Ezekiel 23:1-21. This message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, once there were two sisters who were daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt. Even as young girls, they allowed men to fondle their breasts. The older girl was named Ahola, and her sister was named Aholibah. I married them, and they bore me sons and daughters. I am speaking of Samaria and Jerusalem, for Ahola is Samaria, and Aholibah is Jerusalem. Then Ahola lusted after lovers instead of me. She gave her love to the Assyrian officers. They were all attractive young men, captains and commanders dressed in handsome blue, charioteers driving their horses. And so she prostituted herself with the most desirable men of Assyria, worshipping their idols and defiling herself. For when she left Egypt, she did not leave her spirit of prostitution behind. She was still as lewd as in her youth, when the Egyptians slept with her and fondled her breast and used her as a prostitute. And so I handed her over to the Assyrian lovers, whom she desired so much. They stripped her, took away her children as their slaves, and then killed her. After she received her punishment, her reputation was known to every woman in the land. Yet even though Aholibah saw what had happened to Ahola, her sister, she followed right in her footsteps, and she was even more depraved, abandoning herself to her lust and prostitution. She fawned over all the Assyrian officers, those captains and commanders in handsome uniforms, those charioteers driving their horses, all of them attractive young men. I saw the way she was going, defiling herself like her older sister. Then she carried her prostitution even further. She fell in love with pictures that were painted on a wall, pictures of Babylonian military officers outfitted in striking red uniforms. Handsome belts encircled their waists, and flowing turbans crowned their heads. They were dressed like chariot officers from the land of Babylonia. When she saw these paintings, she longed to give herself to them. So she sent messengers to Babylonia to invite them to come to her. So they came and committed adultery with her, defiling her in the bed of love. After being defiled, however, she rejected them in disgust. In the same way, I became disgusted with Aholibah and rejected her, just as I had rejected her sister, because she flaunted herself before them and gave herself to satisfy their lusts. Yet she turned to even greater prostitution, remembering her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. She lusted after lovers with genitals as large as donkeys and emissions like those of a horse, the hardest verse in the entire Bible to read. And so, Aholibah, you relived your former days as a young girl in Egypt when you first allowed your breasts to be fondled. How come Cindy didn't have to read this section? It would have been better. I wish she were here. The Lord's judgment on Aholibah, Ezekiel 23:22 through 35. Therefore, Aholibah, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will send your lovers against you from every direction, those very nations from which you turned away in disgust. For the Babylonians will come with all the Chaldeans from Pekod and Shoa and Koa, and all the Assyrians will come with them. Handsome young captains, commanders, chariot officers, and other high-ranking officers, all riding their horses. They will all come against you from the north, with chariots, wagons, and a great army prepared for attack. They will take up positions on every side, surrounding you with men armed with shields and helmets. And I will hand you over to them for punishment, so they can do with you as they please. I will turn my jealous anger against you, and they will deal harshly with you. They will cut off your nose and ears, and any survivors will then be slaughtered by the sword. Your children will be taken away as captives, and everything that is left will be burned. They will strip you of your beautiful clothes and jewels. In this way, I will put a stop to the lewdness and prostitution you brought from Egypt. You will never again cast longing eyes on those things or fondly remember your time in Egypt. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will surely hand you over to your enemies, to those you loathe, those you rejected. They will treat you with hatred and rob you of all you own, leaving you stark naked. The shame of your prostitution will be exposed to all the world. You brought all of this on yourself by prostituting yourselves to other nations, defiling yourself with all their idols. Because you have followed in your sister's footsteps, I will force you to drink the same cup of terror she drank. Yes, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You will drink from your sister's cup of terror, a cup that is large and deep. It is filled to the brim with scorn and derision. Drunkenness and anguish will fill you, for your cup is filled to the brim with distress and desolation. the same cup your sister Samaria drank. You will drain that cup of terror to the very bottom. Then you will smash it to pieces and beat your breasts in anguish. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. And because you have forgotten me and turned your back on me, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You must bear the consequences of all your lewdness and prostitution. The Lord's judgment on both sisters. Ezekiel 23:36 through 49. The Lord said to me, Son of man, you must accuse Aholah and Aholibah of all of their detestable sins. They have committed both adultery and murder. Adultery by worshiping idols, and murder by burning as sacrifices the children they bore to me. Furthermore, they have defiled my temple and violated my Sabbath day. On the very day they sacrificed their children to their idols, they boldly came into my temple to worship. They came in and defiled my house. You sisters sent messengers to distant lands to get men. Then when they arrived, you bathed yourselves, painted your eyelids, and put on your finest jewels for them. You sat with them on a beautifully embroidered couch and put my incense and my special oil on a table that was spread before you. From your room came the sound of many men carousing. They were lustful men and drunkards from the wilderness who put bracelets on your wrists and beautiful crowns on your head. Then I said, if they really want to have sex with old worn-out prostitutes like these, let them. And that is what they did. They had sex with Aholah and Aholibah, these shameless prostitutes. But righteous people will judge these sister cities for what they really are, adulterers and murderers. Now this is what the sovereign Lord says. Bring an army against them and hand them over to be terrorized and plundered. For their enemies will stone them and kill them with swords. They will butcher their sons and daughters and burn their homes. In this way, I will put an end to the lewdness and idolatry in the land. And my judgment will be a warning to all women not to follow your wicked example. You will be fully repaid for your prostitution, your worship of idols. Yes, you will suffer the penalty. Then you will know that I am the sovereign Lord. I think it's interesting how all of their sin and stuff is described this way instead of ways that we would describe sin. It's used like this example of prostitution and the intimacy between them and evil, where it's interesting to me how it's described. The way it's described is a picture of, to me, that intimacy compares to our closeness and intimacy with God in a positive light. The opposite of that, and how that the description that is used, page number 1135, Lisa, that the dark side of that, how prostitution and sex is used to describe the evil and the sin. And yet if you look at our world, I can't talk right, sorry, I'm tongue-tied this morning. If you look at our world, the majority, like, there's sin in every thing in the world, and the world is so dark and evil. And you look at all the darkness in our world, and the core of it is money and sex. Like, all the darkness that surrounds us has something to do with sex. And I think it's just interesting, right? There's nothing more sacred than the marriage bed to God. Yeah, it's interesting. The siege of Jerusalem, 2 Kings 24. Oh, we're not out of Ezekiel, but we're in Kings for a minute. It's a relief. 2 Kings 24, 20b through 25 too. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. Jeremiah 52, 3b through 5. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. Jeremiah 39:1. In January of the 9th year of King Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came with his entire army to besiege Jerusalem. The sign of the cooking pot, Ezekiel 24, 1 through 14. On January 15th, during the 9th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, write down today's date, because on this very day the king of Babylon is beginning his attack against Jerusalem. Then give these rebels an illustration with this message from the sovereign Lord. Put a pot on the fire and pour in some water. Fill it with choice pieces of meat, the rump and the shoulder, and all the most tender cuts. Use only the best sheep from the flock, and heap fuel on the fire beneath the pot. Bring the pot to a boil, and cook the bones along with the meat. Now this is what the sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murderers? She is a cooking pot, whose corruption can't be cleaned out. Take the meat out in random order, for no piece is better than another. For the blood of her murders is splashed on the rocks. It is even spilled on the ground, where the dust could cover it. So I will splash her blood on a rock for all to see, an expression of my anger and vengeance against her. This is what the sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murderers? I myself will pile up fuel beneath her. Yes, heap on the wood. Let the fire roar to make the pot boil. Cook the meat with many spices and afterward burn the bones. Now set the empty pot on the coals. Heat it red hot. Burn away the filth and corruption. But it's hopeless. The corruption can't be cleaned out. So throw it into the fire. Your impurity is your lewdness and the corruption of your idolatry. I tried to cleanse you, but you refused. So now you will remain in your filth until my fury against you has been satisfied. I, the Lord, have spoken. The time has come and I won't hold back. I will not change my mind, and I will have no pity on you. You will be judged on the basis of all your wicked actions, says the sovereign Lord. All right. Excuse me. All right, we're on page 192 of Breaking Free from Body Shame. The section titled, So What Do You Say? There's something funny about playing devil's advocate. We play devil's advocate when we support the opposing side of an argument, just to highlight the potential merit of an opposing idea. It's one of those phrases we've simply accepted as part of our cultural language, and sometimes we're even seen as mature and thoughtful when we play this role or allow someone else to do so. But when it comes to the word God has spoken over your body, do you really want to advocate for the devil? Do you want to spend even a moment of your precious life fighting for his cause? Okay, so maybe we don't always know where the line is between good and evil in every argument. Maybe some things are gray areas, worth measuring and sorting out from all sides. But is this one of those moments? Let's revisit what we know to be true. God made our bodies good, Genesis 1:31. Our enemy, the devil, tempted humans with the intent to allow sin to enter the world and thus cause us to experience brokenness in these good bodies, Genesis 3:1 through 7. Personally, I'm not super tempted to be his advocate in this area. God cares what happens to our bodies, Matthew 6:30. He does not want us to experience pain, harm, or brokenness. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy our bodies. He uses sickness, abuse, the environment, the sin of others, the decay of the earth to do just that, John 10:10. Still not really wanting to be on his team here. You? God values women, the whole of who they are, and their place in his kingdom. Satan, our enemy, the devil, perpetuates a campaign against women that causes them to be devalued, objectified, and continually condemned by the measurement of beauty that is perceived and determined by the world. This leads to negative body image, disordered eating, trauma, mistreatment of our bodies, and a host of other horrific issues. So you might be asking, does this mean you're not proud of your body? Does this mean you don't enjoy it when you look pretty? Does this mean you don't wear makeup? Nah, girl, I love my body. It's good. I love celebrating how God made it and giving him glory with it. When a friend tells me I look beautiful, I slap a smile on my face and say thank you. I don't argue or tell her 10 reasons why she's wrong. I thank God that he made us all so interesting and distinct, and I praise him for the ways he created me unique. I celebrate when my body grows in strength and can do something new. I do handstands and run marathons and jump on a trampoline with my kids. But I work hard not to lose heart when my body can't do something too, like the splits or jumping on a trampoline without peeing my pants. Gals in your 20s and younger, you don't know about this yet. It happens. Here's some of the ways I've learned to respond to comments about my body, whether they're echoing God's truth or perhaps playing a little devil's advocate. You look beautiful. My response, thank you. You look like you've lost weight. My response, oh yeah, that's interesting. I make a face and show them this is not a conversation I'm willing to have with them. What I mean is, I think it's interesting that you use weight as a defining characteristic of my value and beauty. If they dig further, continue to comment, I'll even open up that discussion. Should I be polite and say thank you? I believe no. I think I kind of disagree with her a little bit on that, which is fine. She can feel that way. I think that if somebody says you look like you've lost weight, I don't feel like people are looking at us to say, oh, you weren't good enough before, but you look better now. I don't think people are that deep. I think they're just saying, you look like you've lost weight. And we perceive healthy weight with healthy body. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't think people are trying to be mean or judgmental of our before when they say you look like you've lost weight. That's just my 2 cents. Have you done something different? My response, if I have, I'll tell them. If I haven't, a simple no suffices. You look thin today. My response, interesting. I hope I look like me. I love looking like me. My response is usually, thank you. I just don't think people are that deep. I find that it helps to have my responses planned so I'm not put on the spot. I trust you'll find language that feels true to you, but I entreat you to remember 2 things as your body becomes the subject of conversation. Number 1, keeping the status quo will keep the status quo. If you let your concern about being awkward or saying something out of the ordinary inform your decisions, it will. If you choose politeness as a tactic to avoid conflict when something unjust is said, you'll keep the status quo, but potentially miss an opportunity for growth. Number 2, playing nice is not the strategy that will win against spiritual strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10 tells us to take captive every idea that puts itself up against the knowledge of God. I don't need to treat sin politely, and I am not obligated to respond to bondage sweetly. I don't need to be rude, but I will not be taken back into captivity for the sake of someone else's feelings. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:5. All right, I'm going to stop there. I mean, how do you feel about that? If someone says, you look like you've lost weight, do you take that as, I don't know. I don't think it's about taking it as an insult, but I see what she's saying, that our body isn't up for discussion, but I don't personally think that, I don't know. It's hard when you're in the weight loss business, the business of getting healthy. It's almost an I'm struggling to form a normal thought this morning, so bear with me, but I think it's kind of an odd, you know, I don't know what the word is. My head is not feeling well. It's an odd dichotomy, is that the right word? Where getting healthy usually equates to part of that, not just losing weight, but losing weight is part of getting healthy, and I want my body to be healthy. My excess weight is not healthy for us. There's complications that come with it and difficulty that comes with it. But that doesn't mean our body isn't good the way it is. Yeah, I think people mean it as a compliment, not as, I agree, Mary. I've had people say it in a complimentary way, but I've actually had people say it in a judgmental tone too. Anita, absolutely. Yes, Shelly, I agree. I agree. It's felt awkward before because I know that when somebody compliments me on my new weight, they're recognizing, I'm forced to recognize that my old weight was noticeable and that people recognized that I was overweight. But I'm trying to recognize that as I lose weight, I begin to look healthier as well because excess weight is unhealthy for us, not because it looks bad or makes me bad or makes my body not good the way it was. It just means that I'm healthier now than I was before. Not more beautiful, not better, just healthier than I was before. Yes, I agree, Cindy. Yeah, very much so. Sometimes we make that decision that somebody was being judgy or ugly, or, that what they meant was we weren't good enough before, when that wasn't their intention. They're just recognizing our hard work. And I don't dislike when somebody says to me, "You look like you've lost weight." It feels good because I've put a lot of work in. I've put a lot of effort into getting healthier. So for somebody to recognize that, I don't look at it like, well, they're telling me that my body wasn't good enough before. No. They're recognizing that I've put in a lot of work, and I have. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, I agree, Anita. Yeah. My head's going to blow right off the top of I think my forehead's going to pop off any minute. It's just going to be over there on the other side of the room. I'm just going to be sitting here without a forehead. Oh, my Lanta. All right. We have a prayer request for Tammy's husband as he goes to the cardiologist today. I don't know. I think it all is in my sinuses on top of my head, Charlotte. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right, Shelly. Charlotte, I have things to do. I take a Sudafed today. It's all over for me. Sudafed plus me equals sleeping until next Tuesday. I'm going to take some ibuprofen and some Flonase and yeah, some oregano, a whole lot of oregano. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and end in prayer. God, our Father, we thank you for this day and your many blessings. We thank you for your love for us. We thank you for loving us despite our sin, loving us despite our tendency to lean into the things that are not healthy for us. God, I thank you for the message today, the reminder that our bodies are good, that you created us good, that you created us for worship, that you created us specifically to serve you. And God, I just pray that today we will recognize that in our daily tasks, in all that we have to do today, that it is worshipful, that anything we do, our jobs, our food choices, the way we talk to our family, the things we do for our family, the laundry, all the things are a form. God, we pray for Tammy and her husband as they go to the cardiologist today. I pray for peace of mind for her husband. And I pray that there's nothing found wrong, that all is clear and all is good for her husband. And I just pray that you'll calm their nerves today, give them both a sense of peace and give them a sense of you there with them. God, as we go through our day, help us to honor you with everything that we say, with everything that we do, with the choices we make, and with just everything we do with our bodies today. May it be honoring to you. In your precious name I pray. Amen. Oh, yay, Meredith. Yeah, I sat out on the deck yesterday and it was 68. I was like actually chilly. The temperature's been weird. It was really, really hot before we left. And then we had to put the top up in the convertible last night because we got cold. It's weird all of a sudden. But all right, my friends, I love you so much. Sudafed does that to me, Charlotte. It takes me out. I'm a wimp with meds. I'm super wimpy. I love you, peeps. I'm not going to be live today. I think I'm going to lay down for a little bit, and then later this afternoon we have to go get our car fixed because we ran over a screw last night. Now we have to get our tire fixed on our car. So I'm going to go lay down, I think, for a few minutes and then deal with all that I have to do today. I love you, girls.